Hello, now we're going to have a look at indices when we're talking about integers. So we already looked at indices back when we were talking about natural numbers. They were how many times we multiplied a number by itself. There's a little numbers in the top right hand corner that we write up. So the indices are the numbers in the top right hand corner, the little numbers in the top right hand corner, and they tell us how many times we multiply a number by itself. And we're going to look at what effects they have now that we have negative numbers that we have to deal with. So let's have a look. I have 3 to the power of to the indice 2. What does that mean? It means I multiply 3 by itself twice. 1, 2. And now I know how to do that problem. That's 3 multiplied by 3, which is equal to 9. So that's fairly straightforward. We're already familiar with that. I want to highlight something to you immediately that can sometimes catch people out until we get used to our indices. This is a little 2 in the top right hand corner of our number 3. If I meant multiply, I should be using brackets and the 2 is big. So if I'm doing multiplied, this is what it looks like. 3 multiplied by 2. I know how to do that. That's going to leave me with 6. So 3 to the power of 2, or 3 squared, as we often call it, is 3 multiplied by 3 is 9. How many times did I multiply 3 by itself? 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. And sometimes when we aren't used to it or we've forgotten for a while, it can be easy to get muddled between them. But we're not going to make that mistake. We know if it's a little number up in the top right hand corner, we're talking about indices, and it's how many times we multiply the number by itself. Now, let's have a look at a problem down here. Now we've got a negative number to deal with. But, as will always happen in maths, what we already know to be true still holds. This little number up in the top right hand corner tells me how many times I multiply the number by itself. It doesn't matter if it's a negative number. That's still true. So what I'm going to do is write that down on the next line. I'm going to write down minus 2 multiplied by minus 2 multiplied by minus 2. Minus 2 multiplied by itself 3 times. That's what my little 3 tells me. That I'm multiplying minus 2 by itself 3 times. So now I'm going to start doing my problems. I have minus 2 multiplied by minus 2. I'm going to do 2 numbers at a time. Minus 2 multiplied by minus 2. I know that minus multiplied by minus gives me a plus. So I'm going to end up with plus 2 by 2 is 4. And the minus 2 is still there. I haven't done anything with it, so I have to keep it along. And then I have plus multiplied by minus is going to give me minus 4 multiplied by 2 is going to give me 8. So I have minus 8 for my final answer. Now you can see how I did that problem. I started out by writing down the question, then I put equals, and on the next line I wrote out what my question meant. I did my first step, I did my first bit of multiply, and I wrote down the whole sum again, and then I wrote out my answer. It's very important that we're following a structure like this and showing step by step how we're changing our problem. Now let's have a look at our question over here. I have minus 1 in brackets to the power of 5. So if I have minus 1 in brackets to the power of 5, what does that mean? It means I have minus 1 multiplied by minus 1 multiplied by minus 1 multiplied by minus 1 multiplied by minus 1. Loads of minus 1s multiplied together. So let's see how we get on with this. Multiply my first 2 minus 1s together. Minus by minus is going to give me plus. 1 by 1 is 1. So this becomes plus 1. And it's still multiplied by minus 1 by minus 1 by minus 1. And then I'm going to multiply my left hand 2 numbers again. So I have plus 1 multiplied by minus 1. Plus by minus is minus. 1 by 1 is 1. And I'm left with my 2 minus 1s here. Then I'm going to multiply my two minus 1s here on the left. And I have minus multiplied by minus gives me plus. 1 by 1 is 1. And I keep this minus 1 that I haven't done anything with yet. And then plus by minus is minus. And 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. So that's my sum. Now I'm going to have a quick look at something that looks a little bit similar but means something quite different. And that is if I take something like minus 1 to the power of 4. Now, what's different here? There's no bracket. I haven't written in any bracket. And the significance of that is very important, and it's very important when you start using calculators as well. This means that the power, the indice, is only on the 1. It's not on the minus. So this means minus, minus multiplied by 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. So the minus is not on any of these 1s. And I end up with minus, and I'd multiply. There's several ways you can start to approach this one, but we could do 1 by 1 is 1. And then multiply again. And 1 by 1 is 1. And 1 by 1 is 1. And we end up with minus. And minus multiplied by a, this is secretly a plus 1, we know. So we'd end up with minus 1 as our answer. So you can see it's a little bit different if we don't put in our brackets. So we have to be very careful in maths that we write down exactly what we mean. If we don't put in the brackets, we assume that they're only around the number and they're not including the sign. But let's get back to this example here. I have minus 5 multiplied by minus 5 multiplied by minus 5. I want to write that out the short way to begin with. So what's that going to look like? That's going to be minus 5 multiplied by itself 3 times. So I have cubed is what we call that. Minus 3 multiplied by itself 3 times. Power of 3. Indice of 3. Now, if I want to start multiplying this out, I could take my left-hand side numbers, and I have minus by minus is plus, and 5 by 5 is 25. So I'd have plus 25 multiplied by minus 5. And then I could have, doing my final bit of multiply, plus by minus is minus, and 25 by 5. There's a few different ways you can figure this out. We know that multiply is effectively groups of things. So we have 5 25s added together. So we'd have 25, 50, 75, 100, 125. There's a few different ways that you can figure out that sum, but minus 125 is going to be your answer. And again, you can see we're showing how we're changing each bit each time. Very important skill. Now I have minus 4 squared. That means minus 4 multiplied by itself twice. And now I'm going to have minus by minus is going to give me plus, and 4 by 4 is 16. And up in the right hand corner now we have minus 1 squared. And at this stage we're getting very confident with this. We have minus 1 by minus 1. Because it is to the power of 2, so I'm multiplying minus 1 by itself twice. And I have minus by minus will give me plus. And 1 by 1 will give me 1. And minus 1 cubed, I'd have, that means it's multiplied by itself 3 times. So I have my left-hand side numbers I'm going to do first. Minus 1 by minus 1, I already know from the last time, is going to be plus 1. Minus by minus is plus, 1 by 1 is 1. So I have plus 1, and it's still multiplied by the minus 1 over here. It hasn't gone anywhere. And then I have plus 1 multiplied by minus 1 is going to be minus plus 1 by 1 is 1. And finally, I have minus 3 multiplied by minus 2 squared. Now I have to remember my BIMDIS. What am I going to do first, my multiplication or my indices? Well, I look over to BIMDIS and I see indices is going to come first. So I have minus 2 squared. So writing that out fully would be minus 3 on minus 2 on minus 2. Minus 2 by minus 2. So that's where these two minus 2's have come from. And the fact that I have this minus 3 sitting right next to a bracket, if I have a number sitting right next to a bracket, it means multiply as well. So sometimes you won't see a bracket around the minus 3. Sometimes you will. If the number is sitting right next to a bracket, it means multiply. So now I have minus 2 multiplied by minus 2. And I'm going to do these two first. So I have minus 2 multiplied by minus 2 is going to give me minus by minus is plus. So I have minus 3 on plus 2 by 2 is 4. And then I have minus multiplied by, remember 3, minus 3 is multiplied by because of my bracket here. 3 multiplied by 4, and I have minus multiplied by plus is going to leave me with minus 3 multiplied by 4 is going to give me 12. Now, you may be able to see a pattern that is emerging in how these things work. If I have an even numbered power, 2 is an even number, 3 is an odd number, 5 is an odd number. Do I have another? I have 3 an odd number, 2 an even number. That means that I am going to end up with a positive number because I'm going to end up multiplying minus by minus, minus by minus, and I end up with pluses. Or if I end up with odd numbers, I always end up multiplying a plus by a minus and ending up with a minus number. Now that's only if we have a power on a negative number. It does not happen if we have, that's gotten a little bit muddled looking, if we have our situation where we've got minus 1 to the power of 4. If we don't have brackets around that minus 1, what I'm saying is not true. You can see here we ended up with a minus 1. But if we had brackets around the 4, then we would have ended up with a positive. Then we would have ended up with a positive 1 because 4 is an even power. But we'll have lots of time to practice those types of patterns later on. For right now, we know how our indices work. Our little numbers in the top right hand corner tell us how many times we multiply the number by itself. And if we have that, then we're good for now.